After protecting Brittany for 20 years, she still hates me. Just because she blamed me for using my power to force her into marriage. She fell in love with a mechanic and liked to race cars late at night, so I quietly bought the entire track and cleared it out. She escaped from her marriage 3 times, and each time she went to find Robert, a mechanic in the motorcycle shop. The media photographed her smiling as she sat astride the back of his motorcycle, with an eye-catching headline: "Beautiful, rich and white woman gave up her wealthy fiancé and went to live with a poor boy." I suppressed many scandals for her and even gave that man 10 million to develop his career in Northern Europe. Later, she fell ill and needed a kidney transplant. I stepped forward to help her, but due to a serious infection after the operation, she was lying on the hospital bed, dying. I wanted to see her for the last time. "Can you let me touch your hair at the last moment, so that I don't leave with regrets?" But she forced me to sign an agreement and asked me to donate all my assets to the Nordic auto repair shop. I know that the white moonlight she has been thinking about is there. I looked up at her, wanting to ask her what would happen to our child, but I only saw indifference in her eyes. In the end, I still couldn't warm her heart. With tears in my eyes, I said, "Then let me do one last thing for you." I gave up struggling and gave up trying to survive. I will give her the freedom she wants. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day of my marriage. This time, I took the initiative and said, "I give up this engagement. I hope Miss Brittany can find true love soon." But she took my hand and smiled. "What nonsense are you talking about? Even if you are reborn, you will still be mine in this life." The story is about to begin. If you like it, remember to like and follow. The moment my heart stopped beating, I suddenly heard a voice urging me, as if I had just come to life, "David, Miss Brittany is about to arrive. Go and greet her quickly. Don't lose the courtesy of our David family." I struggled to wake up, and my parents' faces suddenly came into view. I drove my healthy body in disbelief, only to realize that I was reborn on the day of my marriage with Brittany's family. Thinking of the physically and mentally abusive relationship in my previous life, I immediately told my parents with a face full of resistance. "Mom and Dad, I don't want to marry into the Brittany family. Please help me break off the engagement and marry someone else in the future. If Miss Brittany asks, just say that I went abroad and won't be back for a few years." But as soon as I finished speaking, I couldn't help but laugh at myself. Brittany hated me so much that she ran away from me 3 times in order to be with her beloved white moonlight. How could she care where I, a shameless and annoying licker who sticks to her, goes? She just wants me to disappear from her world completely. When will I remember this fact and stop harboring ridiculous illusions? Thinking back to my previous life, I loved her to my bones, spoiled and loved her after marriage, and never let her suffer any grievances. But in the end of my death, I could only receive her deep disgust. For by Yuiguang, she even cruelly aborted our child, unwilling to preserve my only bloodline in the world. So I will never make the same mistake again this time. This bad fate is poisonous. If you encounter it, you will lose a layer of skin. Thinking of this, I immediately called my assistant to book a plane ticket, the sooner the better, because I wanted to go abroad to avoid the danger. My parents frowned, their eyes full of disbelief. The marriage has been decided a long time ago, and the 2 families are getting engaged today. "What nonsense are you talking about, kid?" But there was no time to explain to them. I immediately went back to my room to get my passport. As I was opening the suitcase, I suddenly heard a shrill noise coming from outside. I frowned and looked out the window. There was a man and a woman sitting on a speeding motorcycle. The man was dressed like a mechanic, with a short, neat crew cut dyed yellow, and frivolous eyebrows that made him look unruly and freedom-loving. The woman is a beautiful, wealthy woman. Although she is dressed in a low-key manner, her elegance is hard to hide. She closes her eyes and enjoys the breeze. It was Brittany and her beloved Robert. At this moment, the 2 of them were closely attached to each other in the speed and passion, just like the poor boy and the rich girl in the idol drama who broke through the world and loved passionately and ostentatiously. Anyone who saw it would be touched. It was obvious that family background was an unbridgeable gap, and even Robert did not try hard to be with Brittany, and he allowed himself to fall. But Brittany still loves him so much that she is willing to fight the whole world for him and won't allow anyone to make things difficult for him. Even on the day of my engagement, she asked Robert to bring her here in person. In fact, I'm no longer surprised by this scene. In my previous life, what Brittany left me was her resolute back as she rode on Robert's motorcycle and left again and again. But my heart still felt like it was being pricked by needles uncontrollably, and I felt a tingling pain. She once said that she never believed in love in her life, and that all men only made her feel disgusted and were not worthy of standing by her side. But Robert happened to be her exception. Robert could hold her hand without restraint, hug her petite and soft body, and kiss her eyes as bright as stars. And Brittany would only break the ice with him by showing a bright and cute smile like a little girl. And no matter how well I did, how much I gave, and even if I tolerated her and Robert's affairs being brought to my attention again and again, I could not get a good look from her. She said Robert was her white moonlight, so she was entangled with him like a moth to a flame and loved him passionately. I am obviously her legal husband, but I can only be regarded as a stumbling block to her happiness and not worthy of her attention. She always said that I was a despicable person who used my power to force her into marriage and ruined her happiness. But she forgot that the person she wanted me to marry was always her. Before the two families reached an agreement on the marriage, the story of Brittany and Robert spread throughout the upper-class circles. The eldest daughter of the Brittany family, the largest family in Beijing, actually lowered her status and fell in love with a poor boy who had nothing but his looks and self-esteem. A group of rich second generations who were jealous of Robert went to Robert's auto repair shop and mocked him for being shameless and living off women. It is a consistent rule of survival for ordinary people not to fight against power. Besides, there are so many eyes watching the joke. In order not to bring negative impact to Brittany, it won't hurt to endure it. But Robert still violently beat those people with a wrench until their heads were bleeding. When the police arrived, he still refused to let go and punched him fiercely again and again, and the man almost died. Several families were very angry and threatened that Robert would go to jail for life if he didn't die. Brittany was so anxious that she put aside her self-esteem and asked for help from all her connections. In just 1 week, she became haggard and the whites of her eyes were bloodshot. But Robert was still too arrogant and refused to beg for mercy, and even caused Brittany's family to be maliciously targeted. Even though the Brittany family was the only dominant family, they could not withstand the overwhelming power of their numbers and soon faced bankruptcy. Brittany's father couldn't stand to see Brittany being with a poor boy. After this incident, he was furious and ordered her to cut ties with Robert and then get married to save Brittany's family from the precarious situation. Brittany was unwilling and had a big fight with her father, threatening to commit suicide. I really didn't want her to be sad, so even though we were attacked from all sides and the slightest mistake would have meant our downfall, I still managed to help her settle the matter, rescued Robert, and led Brittany's family out of the siege in a swift and decisive manner. He also reached an agreement with Brittany's father not to force her to get married. After this incident, David's family was badly hurt, and I almost died of overwork. I stayed in the hospital for a whole month before I recovered. But this business war also made me famous in Beijing, and everyone was terrified when they heard the name David. Although the David family is not as good as the Brittany family, Brittany's father is far-sighted. He believes that with my ability, it is only a matter of time for the David family to catch up with the Brittany family. So he proposed a marriage between the two families, and from then on, I would secure the position of the #1 family in Beijing. But I refused without saying a word. Even though I loved Brittany deeply, I knew she only had eyes for Robert, and a marriage would only make her hate me. I really can't bear to see her sad at all. I don't want to trap her in the name of love, and I don't want her to become a bargaining chip. I just want to do my best to give her the freedom to choose. I thought that after this incident, she would at least look at me more favorably and be willing to let me protect her as a friend. Unexpectedly, she became even more disgusted with me and warned me not to think that I could win her favor in this way and force her to get married because she already had a lover. I was very sad, but I did what she wanted. 1 month later, she suddenly rushed into my hotel room where I was on a business trip. She took off her wet dress despite my attempts to stop her. She looked at me with red eyes and her red lips kept repeating one sentence stubbornly and forcefully, "David, I know you love me, marry me. You are not awake now, marry me." My heart trembled, I closed my eyes and pursed my lips to seriously confirm with her 3 times, but I still got the same answer, "I want you to marry me." I still didn't say anything, so she walked towards me, biting her lip lightly, and touched my face and my Adam's apple stubbornly and immaturely. At this moment, I could no longer suppress the surging love in my heart and I sank into it. Even though I later found out that all this was just because Brittany saw another woman sitting on the back of Robert's motorcycle, she was unwilling and jealous and wanted to take revenge on Robert. I am also willing to become her slave and fight for her. I thought I could warm her up with my passionate love, but I never expected that I would empty myself and not even get a word of praise. Memories of my past life flashed before my eyes quickly, and finally stopped at the moment before she died, when she forced my skinny and bloodless hands, which were full of needles, to sign an agreement to give all my property to Robert. At that moment, I once again saw myself, dying and extremely humble, in her cold pupils. At this point, all entanglements no longer have any meaning. A person's life should not only be about love, there should also be a career that you love, family members to take care of, and even many meaningful things to do. So why should you plunge into the sea of suffering and refuse to look back? Brittany, I don't owe you anything. This time I decided to let you pursue happiness and also give myself a way out. After I figured it out, I no longer had any attachment and hurried to pack up. But just as I was about to leave, my parents stopped me and said, "You know how many people are eyeing the marriage between the two families? It is an honor for our David family to marry into this family with her noble status. Plus, you like her so much, why do you want to cancel the engagement? Anyway, for the David family, you must get engaged to Miss Brittany today." No matter how I refused, my parents still forced me to marry Brittany. I closed my eyes, and without any hesitation, I took the fruit knife from the coffee table, put it to my wrist and cut it hard. Bright red blood gushed out instantly, dripping onto the ground and gathering into a pool of blood, which was extremely eye-catching. My parents were horrified. They rushed forward to grab the knife and pressed the wound on my wrist tightly. Their voices trembled. "Are you crazy? Even if you don't want to get married, you don't have to commit suicide. If you die, what's the point of our David family being so prosperous?" I smiled bitterly with a pale face. "Dad, Mom, don't force me. If you really want me to marry her, I can only." Seeing this, my parents still had some objections and hurriedly interrupted. Okay, I won't force you, I won't force you. Your parents will cancel the engagement with Brittany's family right now, and you are not allowed to do anything stupid." Finally, I avoided Brittany as I wished, got into the car that the driver had prepared, and left without any reluctance, without even looking back at her. I think this is what is called letting go, which is good. Besides, David's family has always wanted to expand into overseas markets, so it's a good opportunity to bring the plan forward. But this time I won't be foolish enough to make wedding dresses for others. I will bring the David family to the top position. After leaving home, I finally breathed a sigh of relief and closed my eyes to rest. However, because I was too eager to leave, I didn't notice Brittany's changes. If you had seen it, you would have been surprised. After she got off the motorcycle, she urged Robert to leave with an impatient look on her face. You know, she is arrogant and disdainful to everyone, but in front of Robert, she acts like a gentle little woman who depends on her partner. And unlike the previous times when she came to my house reluctantly, she was dressed elegantly and carried many valuable gifts to honor the elders, all of which were what my parents liked. She looked so happy, like a girlfriend who came to seek the approval of the man's parents. It seemed like this was the first time she had humbled herself to please her elders. She nervously put down the gift and said, "Uncle and Aunt, this visit was rushed and I didn't prepare enough. I'm sorry, but I still hope you like it." My parents felt a little guilty and quickly welcomed her into the house. No, Miss Brittany is so thoughtful. Uncle and Aunt, just call me Brittany. After all, we will soon be a family. Brittany's face flushed slightly, and she no longer looked as cold as before. She took the initiative to talk to my parents, and from time to time she looked at my bedroom on the second floor with expectant eyes. Just over 10 minutes had passed, and there was still no movement at the closed door. My patience ran out. Is David feeling unwell? Why doesn't he come down? If you feel uncomfortable, you must go to the hospital quickly. Don't delay. I don't know what she was thinking about, but she suddenly felt very uneasy and wanted to go upstairs to look for me. Seeing this, my parents could only stop her and said tactfully, "Ms. Brittany, David is not sick, he just decided to cancel the engagement with Brittany's family." Brittany couldn't help but ask sharply, "Impossible, he wanted to marry me the most, did you force him to break up with me?" My parents were caught off guard and frightened. They had no choice but to tell the truth. "Ms. Brittany, you really misunderstood. We certainly hope that the Brittany family and the David family can marry each other, but I don't know what happened to David today. He cut his wrist like a demon and threatened to die. As parents, we are heartbroken, but there is really nothing we can do. At this moment, Brittany couldn't hear anything. She staggered back and fell on the sofa with weak legs. She looked like a pitiful abandoned person and murmured in disbelief, "You said David would rather commit suicide than marry me?" Brittany still refused to believe it and repeatedly confirmed with my parents whether I really wanted to break off the engagement with her and not marry her. When have the parents ever seen such a scene? From beginning to end, their son was treated coldly and they could only nod and smile to coax him. After a while, Brittany wiped her tears and stood up, her face full of determination. "David, no matter where you run, I will find you." Then he decisively left the David family. If I had seen what she did, my jaw would have dropped. Brittany is beautiful and has a high status. There is no shortage of people courting her around her, but except for Robert, who can make her lose her composure, no one can affect her mood. The only person she wants to marry is Robert, and breaking off the engagement is what she wants. But now she actually showed her desire to possess me and said she wanted to find me. This was something I never dared to think about. However, I was unaware of all this and was bandaging my wounds in the hospital. I was so cruel to myself that even the doctor couldn't help but scold me for being so young and impatient. If I had come a minute later, my hand would have been disabled. I smiled awkwardly, refused the request for hospitalization, and urged my assistant to pick me up at the airport. As long as I can get on the plane and no longer be involved in Brittany and Robert's love, I can live my life well. However, when we first arrived at the airport, everyone at the airport was exclaiming. I frowned and looked over, only to see the most incredible scene in 2 lifetimes. All the commercial screens in the airport were filled with Brittany's cool face. But unlike usual, she looked like she had been crying, her eyes and nose were red, and she said to the camera in a sad tone of being abandoned, "I am Brittany, the eldest daughter of the Brittany family. Now I am looking for someone. Anyone who can provide information about him will get 1 million, and whoever brings him to me will get 50 million. I thought she was having a quarrel with Robert again and smiled bitterly. In my previous life, the drama of rich girls pursuing poor boys was played out many times, and I was forced to witness it all. I didn't expect that I still couldn't escape it after my rebirth. Otherwise, how can it be called a bad fate? I suppressed my disappointment and prepared to leave quickly. But the next second, her words nailed me to the spot, unable to move. "David, I'm looking for you. Can we find a place to talk?" Her tone was more pleading than anything I had ever heard before, and then the airport announcement came on, asking me to go to the service desk where someone was waiting for me. Suddenly, the airport seemed to explode, and everyone stopped to discuss. "Oh my God, this is Brittany, the daughter of one of the richest families in Beijing. She would actually beg a man to pay attention to her? That's ridiculous. That unfaithful man is so tactless. I used glue to stick the young lady to death. I can't get rid of him in this life. Stop talking, this is a great opportunity to make a fortune, hurry up and find this walking vault. Who is this David? He seems familiar. Oh no, isn't he Brittany's marriage partner? I think I saw him just now." Everyone was excited, their eyes widened as they searched around. Only I felt as if a thorn in my back was suddenly thorned in my side. I immediately lowered my head and hid myself in the crowd, wishing I were transparent. No, what is going on? Brittany has never bothered to see me, even after marriage she ignored me, but why is she looking for me so loudly now, and saying such ambiguous words that people will misunderstand? Is it just because I took the initiative to cancel the engagement that she felt embarrassed? Or maybe she finally noticed my existence. But as soon as the thought came to my mind, I suppressed it in fear and shook my head. No, 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 it's impossible. Brittany doesn't love me at all. Why should I still have such a ridiculous fantasy? Do you think you are not humble enough and not a dog enough? I didn't want to worry about what she was thinking anymore. I just wanted to leave here quickly and quicken my pace towards the boarding gate. I was just one step away from going through security and boarding the plane when a familiar yet frightening voice suddenly rang out from behind me. "David, stop right there." I subconsciously tried to run forward, but it was too late. After the hurried footsteps, a warm body suddenly pressed against my back, and the soft and boneless arms tightly clamped my waist. "I don't agree to cancel the engagement, David, I love you, you can't leave." As soon as I finished speaking, countless eyes fell on me. There is jealousy and envy, and even more regret for missing the opportunity to get rich overnight. But my mind went blank. I stood there in a daze, not knowing how to react. I just felt it was ridiculous. Brittany, a person who I have given my all to but still cannot get a good look from, a person who is not even worthy of even a frown from, now publicly expresses her love to me in front of everyone? Is this possible even if I took the initiative to break up the engagement with her? However, the hot temperature of another person on my body and the faint fragrance lingering around my nose told me that this was all real. She really did it. But before today, this was a treatment only Robert could enjoy. When I thought of Robert, I sobered up instantly. I frowned and pulled her away from behind me. I lowered my eyes and said, "Miss Brittany, I think my parents have made it very clear that I want to give up this engagement. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other in terms of marriage." Brittany trembled, bit her lip and stared at me. "I don't believe it, David. Do you dare to look me in the eye and say in person that you don't want to marry me?" At this moment, she looked fragile, with unspeakable emotions in her eyes. I had never seen this side of her before. But I still had a cold face, even with a slightly annoyed tone. "Why not? There is no love between us, and the marriage is just for the sake of interests. Please don't do such a misunderstood action, it's inappropriate." In her previous life, she only had Robert in her heart and never took me seriously. The so-called love was just the love that I couldn't get. Now even I have given up and there is really no feeling between us. So why bother to dwell on it? Miss Brittany, I wish you to find true love soon and live a happy life. I thought that after saying this and rejecting his love in public, someone as proud as Brittany would definitely be angry. But she took my hand and said with a smile, "What nonsense are you talking about? Even if you are reborn, you can only be mine in this life." Then I realized that I was not the only one who was reborn. No wonder she did so many things to me today that she would never do to me in her previous life. It was like the god of luck had descended on me. But I don't feel lucky, I even feel speechless and ridiculous. What is this? Seeing that I was so miserable in my previous life that I couldn't get her love, she was touched, so she was kind enough to be with me in this life? She clearly doesn't like me, but she is reluctant to give up my kindness to her. Am I some kind of cheap person? My face was extremely cold at this moment, and I shook her hand off in annoyance. "Ms. Brittany, since you have the memory of your past life, then isn't it just what you want if I break off the engagement and set you free? You can just choose to let it go like me. Anyway, I'm just an annoying trouble to you, right? Or do you think I'm a dog that you can call and dismiss at will? As long as you wave your hand casually, I will definitely come over with a smug look to please you. I am also a human being. I get tired. I don't love you anymore. Please spare me, okay?" Brittany refused to believe it at first, and was sure that I was just breaking up with her out of spite because I cared about Robert, so her expression was relatively calm. After all, no one in this world loves her more than I do, enough to tolerate having another man by her side. Don't say those angry words. In your last life, you clearly loved me until your death. How can you let go so easily? But when she saw that there was really no love in my cold eyes, and saw the thick gauze on my wrist soaked with blood, and remembered that I was willing to commit suicide to break off the engagement, she completely panicked. With a pale face, he grabbed the hem of my clothes and pleaded with a trembling voice, "No, this is not true, you are just angry, right? I was wrong. It was only after you died in the last life that I realized how much you meant to me. I have fallen in love with you and cannot live without you. David, can we get back together? Believe me, we will be very happy this time." "Oh, happiness? I have come to my senses in this life and of course I can be happy, but it can never be with her. I have learned this in my previous life. The pain she brings me will only be like a thorn in my flesh, reminding me to stay away from her at all times. Ms. Brittany, I don't love you. I will never be with you even if I die. Don't come to me again." I ignored her attempts to keep her, shook off her hand, turned around, went through security, boarded the plane, and then completely kicked her out of my world. I thought that giving up on someone I had loved with all my heart for so long would make my heart empty, as if I had lost something. But the moment the plane took off, I felt an unprecedented calmness. I turned my head to look at the clouds outside the window. The sunset glow dotted them with golden light, revealing infinite beauty. In my previous life, I put all my attention on Brittany and never paid any attention to her until I died. In fact, before the cabin door was closed, I saw her with red eyes, breaking through the security guard's blockade and trying to rush in, and she shouted my name in a crying voice without caring about her image. I admit that I was a little touched at that moment. Maybe there is a 1 in 10,000 chance that she really loves me. But this also just means that what's left is just her panic over losing my unconditional kindness. So I don't regret giving up on her at all. After arriving abroad, I specifically instructed my assistant not to disclose any of my whereabouts. After reporting to my parents that I was safe, I traveled alone for a month without any distractions. The Northern Lights in Iceland, the Berlin Castle in Ireland, Notre Dame de Paris and the Milan Cathedral. I also contacted a top medical team for a physical examination. After all, I was tortured so much by illness in my previous life. Even though I will not donate a kidney to Brittany again, I still can't help but feel scared. While I was enjoying my life, Brittany was locking herself in her room, not eating or drinking, waiting for my news, crying with red eyes. After that day, the marriage between the two families was completely called off, and everyone knew that Brittany's pursuit of love was rejected. Brittany's father couldn't stand it anymore and yelled at her, "I told you not to have anything to do with that mechanic. How much did David do for you? Not to mention how he tried his best to clean up your mess. After that incident, he would rather give up 30% of the profit so that I can't force you to do something you don't want to do. Look at that useless guy who is always causing trouble. What use is he other than causing trouble and dragging you down? Why don't you use your brain to think about it?" The atmosphere in Brittany's family is depressing, but where some are sad, others are happy. After hearing the news, the other families immediately contacted my parents and insisted on introducing their daughters to me. My parents said that I didn't plan to come back in the next few years I was abroad, so they declined. But they were not angry. They happily said that I was such a good guy and should strive for a career. It was also okay for their daughter to come to me abroad to find me. After Brittany learned about this, she couldn't help but feel a strong sense of crisis. No, David is hers and can't be taken away by others. She was eager to have a good talk with me, but I had blocked all her contact information, and even the secret expressions of love on my social media accounts that she despised had completely disappeared. It seems to have really confirmed what I said: I don't love you anymore, and I would rather die than be with you. The man who had been proud all his life now helplessly hid himself in the quilt, his tears soaking the pillow. No, David loves me so much, how could he bear to let me go? Thinking back to my previous life, no matter how much I did or how good I was to her, she never took me seriously. She looked down on me from the bottom of her heart as someone who would do anything for profit and power, using any means necessary and without any bottom line. But for her, Robert is the fresh and unworldly style that she needs to pursue regardless of the consequences. She thought that she had finally survived until I died and no one would stop her from being with Robert, and she finally got what she wanted. But she found that she was not happy at all. Robert is also irritable, has no ambition, and has an incredibly high self-esteem. If something is slightly wrong, they will say they look down on him and dislike him for being poor. They would have a big quarrel over trivial matters, and then leave me alone to go drink and meet girls, waiting for me to coax them. Later, she finally got tired and knew what she really needed. What she wants is selfless love and tolerance, and a big tree that can hold up the sky for her. Instead of having passion and speed but not being able to give her any stability. In addition, after she was reborn, she learned about all the things I had done for her silently behind her back, and that I was definitely the person who loved and supported her the most in the world. She felt both regretful and fortunate. I regret that I only saw Robert and couldn't see me. I am glad that I was lucky enough to be reborn. Everything is still in time. She wants to be with me. So she asked Robert to take her to see me right away. But things went against her wishes. She didn't expect that I was reborn with the memories of my past life and avoided her like the plague. She panicked. After a month of relaxing, my mood has completely calmed down and I can devote myself to my work. First, a David family branch was established abroad to expand business. He then formed a top research team, focusing on artificial intelligence and medical care, to prepare for the future transformation of the David family. Last time, for Brittany, the entire David family became a blood supply station for Brittany's family. And this time, I must make David family the best. Although I had already formulated a strategy and successfully avoided all the pitfalls I could think of, my measures were also swift and decisive. But after all, this is not China, and the energy we have to spend here must be double or more. Fortunately, God favors those who work hard, and I quickly gained a foothold. The news also spread back to the country, and people all admired my courage and resourcefulness. That day, I had just reached a cooperation with a difficult client and was drinking coffee with a sigh of relief. My friend Andy suddenly called me and said in an exaggerated tone, "Damn, David, you don't know this, since you left, Brittany actually came to see me." I was shocked. You know, she never looked at me straight in the eye before, she was very proud and arrogant. Also, the scene where she breaks up with Robert is really exciting. He spoke a lot very quickly, and then I realized it. Ever since that day when I rejected Brittany's love at the airport and got on the plane without looking back, she has completely changed. Unlike her previous disdain for me, she looked everywhere for my whereabouts. Andy was my best friend, and he had seen my admiration for Brittany and how she had treated me over the years. Naturally, he was happy to see us break up, and he couldn't help but say a few sarcastic words to Brittany. Unexpectedly, she was not angry at all, and even pitifully begged Andy to tell her where I was. Andy refused to say anything, so she came to ask every day, acting very humble despite her noble status. Later, she even thought that I minded that she had not broken up with Robert, so she took the initiative to break up with Robert, and asked my friend to tell me the news with an expectant look on her face. As for Robert, who was dumped, he initially thought that Brittany was just quarreling with him and didn't take it seriously at all. Besides repairing cars, I still perform fast and furious games with friends and get chased by traffic police. But when he learned what Brittany did for me that day, he became anxious, looked betrayed, and asked Brittany with red eyes who he was. That day, Brittany came to Andy to ask me about my whereabouts, and it was raining heavily. Robert was soaking wet while riding his motorcycle, and he shouted heartbreakingly at the entrance of the club, "Brittany, you said you loved me the most in your life, but I didn't expect that you would fall in love with someone else in just a few days. I'm so stupid. I should have known that a rich girl like you couldn't have true love. I'm just a tool for you to pass the time. Brittany, are you worthy of my sincerity?" Robert was drenched like a drowned dog in the heavy rain. If it were in her previous life, Brittany would have rushed up to him and acted out an idle drama scene with him. After all, if Robert frowned even a little, he would feel distressed for a long time and coax her in various ways. But now seeing Robert in such a state of love, she felt ashamed and said to him in an annoyed tone, "That's enough, I'm breaking up with you, can't we just part ways in peace? Didn't I give you $5 million as a breakup fee? How long are you going to make such a fuss? I'm telling you, the person I love now is David. Please don't harass me again and make him misunderstand that I'm still unclear with you, otherwise I will call the police." I don't know what words hurt Robert's self-esteem, but he actually said with a ferocious face that Brittany was a slut and nothing great about her. Brittany's eyes widened. She couldn't believe that the person she had loved for so long would be such a scumbag who didn't respect her. She was also angry. "Robert, you are a good-looking but useless person. What qualifications do you have to say that to me?" Then he immediately asked the security guard to drag the man away and not allow him to appear in front of him again. The breakup between the two was a huge event, and the whole city of Beijing was laughing at it. After hearing all this, I sighed deeply. Although I don't know what happened between them, two people who were once madly in love have now ended up in an embarrassing situation. But none of this has anything to do with me, and I won't get involved in it anyway. But I didn't expect that after hanging up the phone, I looked up and saw a photo of Brittany and I on the big screen in New York, with the scrolling letters below, "Brittany loves David." She actually confessed her love to me in public again in front of everyone, and she was abroad. But unlike the panic and disbelief I felt last time at the airport, my first reaction this time was to wonder how long she would keep pestering me, and I felt extremely annoyed. Just when I was about to call his assistant to ask him to leave, I heard Brittany's voice mixed with sorrow and joy behind me. "Brother David, you are really here. It's so hard for Brittany to find you." I didn't say anything, so Brittany bit her lip, looked up at me and said, "Brother David, I have completely cut off my relationship with Robert. Please, don't push me away because of him, okay?" She carefully pulled my sleeve and explained over and over again that she really didn't love Robert anymore. She even had him driven out of Beijing and would never affect us again. I still didn't say anything. I didn't understand why she had to dwell on the past. What's the point? I did not respond to her plea, but looked at her in silence for a long time, and asked tiredly, "I am living a good and happy life now, why do you have to disturb me?" "Because I love you." The answer was decisive and sincere, but I just didn't believe it. I even laughed out loud after hearing this ridiculous answer. No, you don't love me at all. I've seen what you call love. Brittany, you just can't bear to part with my kindness. Brittany covered her ears and shook her head desperately. Her face was pale. I didn't know if she was trying to convince herself or me. No, no, brother David, I won't give up on you. As if to prove that she really loved me, Brittany did not return home after being ignored. Instead, she booked a room next to my hotel and stayed there. She knew that I was not used to foreign food, so she learned how to cook and make desserts by watching videos every day and then delivered them to my door. I didn't open the door, so she stood outside until the food was cold. Then she put it down, reminded me to remember to eat, and left sadly. Even if she saw the dishes still untouched at the door one night, she would still patiently cook for me. She would also bribe the cleaning lady to sneak in and clean the house for me when I went to the company, and leave a love letter behind. It can be said that she did almost everything she could for me. In fact, I should be touched that she, a spoiled young lady, would do this for me. After all, it is a far cry from the indifferent and disdainful attitude she had in her previous life. But I still felt calm inside, and even felt that she was affecting my normal life. Because she was so caring to Robert in her previous life. Now it's just being copied to me. Brittany, oh Brittany, my heart died along with my body in my last life. No matter how much you do, it won't beat for you anymore. Until this day, when I finished my project and returned to the hotel, I found the door of the room ajar and an ambiguous light on inside. I originally thought that it was some partner with a bad taste who was unwilling to give up and wanted to extend the cooperation with me by giving people away. After all, this happened often before, and I rejected them all with a cold face. But as soon as I entered the room, I saw Brittany sitting on the bed in a gauze dress waiting for me, with an intoxicating blush on her face. She looked at me shyly, her voice was charming, and she hooked her finger at me. Brother David, I'm so cold, can you hug me? At that moment, the scenes of her actively seeking sex with me in both lives could no longer be suppressed and instantly emerged in my mind. My expression became even colder, and I irritably opened my collar. Ms. Brittany, I don't think I ever allowed you to enter my room at will, right? Seeing my resistance, her face turned pale at first, then she mustered up the courage to walk towards me and kissed my lips when I wasn't paying attention. I frowned and moved away, but she climbed onto my chest again and tried to take off my clothes. When she was left with only a white shirt, I held her hands tightly to prevent her from moving. Brittany, last time you provoked me, but afterwards you said I used my power to force you to marry me. What about this time? What are you going to say about me this time? This kind of thing should only be done by people who love each other. If there is no emotion, it is just animal desire, the same for everyone. I don't want to be an animal, please understand Miss Brittany. Brittany was holding on, but was suddenly hurt by these words. Her eyes turned red and filled with tears. But she still continued stubbornly. When she found that she couldn't take mine off, she took off her own clothes with trembling hands, tears streaming down her face as she took them off. No, there is love between us, we are not animals. I watched coldly as Brittany insisted on deceiving herself and had no self-respect. I had nothing to say. He wanted to leave the room to her and leave, but he caught a glimpse of her smooth, flat belly from the corner of his eye. He remembered something and felt a sudden pain in his heart. In both lives, the accident when she had a quarrel with Robert and offered herself to me led to our unexpected baby. When I heard the news, my heart was filled with love. In less than a month, I immediately started preparing various maternal and child supplies, and even personally selected the best nannies and delivery hospitals in Beijing. But she told me impatiently that she had an abortion on the day she found out she was pregnant. I was very disappointed, but I tried my best to convince myself, Brittany is still young and hasn't had enough fun, or maybe she doesn't want to be a mother. That's fine, I respect her choice. At worst, I can adopt an orphan and raise him as my own child. If the elders don't agree, I can say that I am infertile and take on all the pressure for her. As long as she is happy, I can do anything. In her previous life, less than a year after getting married, Brittany fell ill and needed a kidney donation. At that time, Robert used the excuse that he didn't know and ignored it. But when I found out, I did a matching immediately despite my parents' objection. In the end, the matching was successful and I donated a kidney to Brittany. Afterwards, instead of being grateful to me, she re-engaged in a tragic relationship with Robert. I pretended not to see it. It has always been like this anyway, and I don't regret my efforts. Until one late night later, I unexpectedly heard her tell Robert with tenderness on her face that she wanted a baby like Robert. By that time, she will definitely be a great mother. Then I realized that it wasn't that she didn't like children, but she just didn't want to have one with me. I was so heartbroken that I almost couldn't breathe. Later, I couldn't hold it back any longer, so I went to drink with Andy all night. I didn't want to go back to that cold bridal chamber. When he woke up, he found himself lying on the bed, next to Brittany, who was also naked. I didn't know what was going on. She didn't get angry with me and even gave me a rare good look. I was naturally happy that she wanted to be close to me. Anyway, she got pregnant again after that time, and she didn't say whether she wanted to have the baby or not. Later, I developed a serious infection. Before I died, I wanted to ask her if she could just give birth to the baby for me this time. But I only saw indifference in her eyes. Thinking of this, I really want to laugh at myself for being such a bootlicker in my previous life. How can you do this for someone who doesn't love you at all? I wanted to push her away angrily and call her a psycho, but I chose to take a deep breath and try to calm myself down. Brittany, you also aborted the second time you had a baby in your last life, right? So, you obviously hate me so much that you can't even tolerate an innocent child. Why are you still bothering me? What am I in your eyes? Your sexual toy? Just because I have given my heart to you, do I deserve to be wasted by you? Brittany also remembered and stopped trying to take off her clothes. Instead, she hugged me tightly, her tears soaking my shirt. Brother David, listen to me. I can explain. The last time. I don't want to lie, I really didn't want it because I hadn't fallen in love with you yet, but the next time, I didn't want to have an abortion because Robert said you were dead and there was nothing that could stop us, so he forced me to have an abortion. Brother David, please believe me, please believe me. Brittany, with your status and position, it would have been easy for you to insist on keeping your child, but you chose to listen to Robert. After saying that, I pushed Brittany away mercilessly and left. Behind me came a sound of crying like a child who had lost his favorite toy. But I didn't look back. After that I booked a new hotel and Brittany never came to see me again. I thought she finally figured it out and returned home, and I was relieved. But I didn't expect that 3 days later, I would receive the news that she had been kidnapped. In the live video, Brittany's hands and feet were tied with ropes, her hair was messy, and her body was covered with whip marks. She looked really miserable. The kidnapper next to me came up, grabbed her hair and pulled her in front of the camera, tore off the tape on her face, and told me to bring 100 million renminbi to the place they designated immediately, otherwise they would kill me. Then he slapped her in the face again. Brittany cried pitifully, Brother David, Brittany is so scared, can you save me? Anyone who sees such a scene would feel heartbroken, let alone I once held her high in my heart. But at this moment I just closed my eyes in extreme exhaustion. Ms. Brittany, it's too obvious, don't treat me like a fool. On the other end of the phone, the kidnappers looked at each other in bewilderment, and Brittany was stunned for a moment, then continued to cry and said to me, Brother David, what are you talking about? Brittany is so scared, please come and save me. I didn't want to argue with her anymore, so I pointed out the signs of their acting and the actors hired to be kidnappers. Honestly, Brittany, even if I don't love you, don't make me hate you, okay? Then he hung up without hesitation. Just at the last second when the picture disappeared, I heard Brittany's heart-wrenching cry, Brother David, I just want to prove that you still love me. I know that the white moonlight she has been thinking about is there. After that, Brittany really never contacted me again. It took me only 2 years to fulfill my original promise and bring the David family to the top position and become the leader of the new generation. The Brittany family gradually declined because they were too conservative and unwilling to try new things. A year later, in the mountains next to Beijing, the police found the badly damaged body of a man on a motorcycle. It was Robert. In pursuit of speed and excitement, he actually raced on a steep mountain road. Later, the handle of the motorcycle fell off, the car lost control, and he rushed down the mountain and died. Not long after, Brittany also died of kidney failure and could not find a suitable match. Before he died, he left me a message, Brother David, I'm sorry. In the next life, I will love you instead. I didn't show any expression. I asked my assistant to place a bouquet of her favorite blue roses in front of her tombstone, and then continued my new life.